first, just a little bit about STEP for those of you who might be joining us for the first time, and then I'll pass to our wonderful guest speakers who are joining us today. So let's go ahead and get started. So thank you for those of you who have been here each and every week, or for those of you who are joining us for our first presentation. STEP is a chance just to opt into whatever program, whatever you would like out of this summer. Do you want to join us for the Connects and get to meet more folks in person? Our transfer talks are run by important offices all over campus to make sure that you're feeling connected with resources. Coming up soon, we'll also be adding in our RED talks, which are research education talks. And our transfer map, which is going to help you think about how you're approaching classes and extracurriculars for these next few years. I have slides for each of these, so I don't know why I'm giving you all of it on the first page, but I'm going to go ahead and start a poll at the bottom. We keep checking and just want to see what are the top 3 questions in your mind at this stage of summer. As you're coming in, as you're thinking about transfer, what are things that are top of your mind at this time? And you'll see that poll come up on your screen shortly. Advising, transferring credits. See a couple of people looking about affordable food on campus. That's definitely something we're going to touch on today. Parking and purchasing textbooks, getting involved. Awesome. So we have a little bit of a mix. This has been before we had some big 3 and we've really kind of shaken it up. So I'm happy to see that things are changing. Today, we'll definitely be talking about those affordable food on campus, how to use Triton dollars. We'll talk about later, paying for classes. Where are you going to live? All right. So thank you everyone for getting those submitted. We're going to get a couple more of those discussed today. So, all right. As I mentioned, we have our transfer talks. This is, we have 2 more in the beginning of summer, and then we'll join us again more towards the end, but we'll talk more about those later. Transfers Connect just kicked off last week, and we had one today. So hopefully some of you are able to join us. If you haven't RSVP'd or when you signed up originally, you didn't sign up for this, you're welcome to join us. This is more our social component. We have in-person and virtual options, gives you a chance to work with our peer coaches closely, get to meet other incoming transfer students. It's been so wonderful to see your faces and actually get to meet you in person. That's something I definitely miss about this webinar component, is not getting to see all of you coming in. So we really appreciate those of you who've been able to join us for Transfers Connect, and we'll continue to have some more. And as I mentioned, transfer math is going to be coming up on the STEP webpage very soon, July 15th. So this will be a largely independent led activity, and then we'll have special peer coach appointments to be able to walk you through how to think about these and finalizing some of those plans. And then, as I mentioned, Red Talks are coming in August. This will be a 3-part series of what is research at UCSD, how to access it, what emails to send, and who to reach out to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success as you approach research in your time at UC San Diego. And we're all getting very excited for our STEP Welcome Day. So this will just be a big, we'll have food, it will be more of a party for you to have a chance to meet one another. And we will be so excited to have the opportunity. I see a question coming in the chat. No webinar was missed today, but we have different days to have the Transfers Connect. That's an option just for folks to meet either virtually or in person. So we had one of our iterations of Transfers Connect today. Nothing was missed. There's four options to join in. So no webinars missed on that end. I see a question in our box. For our Transfer Promise, this is going to be an extra program that goes throughout the academic year. And this is something for our first-gen transfer student in connection with Triton's First. So this is our first year running it. You're able to sign up on our website, and we'll be getting in touch with those of you who signed up for this very soon, and figuring out which activities and things will continue throughout the year and how we can be of support. For all of these transfer talks, if you've missed a previous session or you wanted to catch up on something, this is all on our website. If you go under new admits, we have what we learned. Will be a tab under here, and you'll find the recording and main points from all sessions, including today's. They're usually up by the Friday of the week that the presentations happened, and they're also on our YouTube page. So this is our chance. If you have your phone out and you want to scan our QR code, you can start bringing in attendance for today. At the very end of the presentation, we'll do a spinning wheel and send out prizes for 3 of our folks who are present today. And for today's topic, we're going to be talking about essentials on campus, our basic needs center, CalFresh, SwD, which is students with dependents, and OSD, which is our office for students with disabilities. And we have some of our wonderful folks from each of those places here for our presentation. So I will go ahead and share this QR code at the very end. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and pass off to Ebony in the CalFresh office, who is our CalFresh coordinator here at UCSD. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Ebony Watkins, and I am the CalFresh coordinator over at UCSD, and I am going to share CalFresh eligibility. Are you guys able to see my screen? Sorry.
That's okay. We see it, but we see the whole back end of the whole back end of PowerPoint. I think you want to click present first and then share.
I think I'm having issues with the sharing, Tessa.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and
allowing me.
That's okay. Let's have Bianca go ahead and start us off from students with dependents, and then we'll pass back to Ebony right after that. No problem at all. Bianca, are you ready to go? I know you're might not be able to be on camera, but we'll go ahead and have you start your presentation if you don't mind. Bianca is the Students with Dependents coordinator here at UCSD and can chat a little bit about that program.
Yeah. I will start off with my screen on. If it lags, just let me know and I'll turn it off. But let me go ahead and share my screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, is it visible to everyone?
Yes, it is perfect.
Perfect. Okay, great. So yes, like Tessa said, I am the Students with Dependents coordinator. So I work specifically with UCSD students to get more specialized care regarding dependence. That definition is a bit more broad than just student parents, but I'll go ahead and share about that in a second. So what is a student with dependence? So students with dependents at UCSD, we do have more of a broad definition than other universities might have. So it could be a student parent, a caregiver, or a guardian. So that includes being kind of children that might not be your own, any siblings, just, family dynamics differ from person to person, any mentally or physically disabled family members or any ill family members as well. And then also a partner or spouse. And then, that's just to kind of go back, being the primary caregiver for those individuals. And so I know not all of you might be students with dependents, and not everybody might be planning to have a family while attending UCSD, but if you are, or if that just happens, then we are here to provide support and services in order to help you get to the educational goals that you want to obtain. So a bit about the role. This role is housed in student affairs case management. And so I do work closely with case managers. I also work closely with basic needs as well. This role started at the end of 2022 to provide more specific support. I also provide non-clinical case management to students with dependents here at UCSD. And then I also do kind of advocacy and just provide a presence for students with dependents throughout campus, connecting with campus partners, and then also just kind of creating better practices. Another thing that I do is maintain the social media accounts. So just kind of keeping those up to date, providing different resources or different campus events that are happening, also sharing other campuses or other partners' resources. We do have the e-newsletter, which sometimes includes scholarships. It could include upcoming childcare events or like mixer events hosted by different campus partners. And then I also just kind of maintain the Students with Dependents website. So that's pretty extensive. It has an extensive list of different resources like childcare, lactation support, financial support, priority registration, and then also just campus inclusivity. Like I mentioned, I'm collaborating with different campus partners just to make sure we have the best practices, and then also just being more inclusive of dependents of all ages, just so that way students can have a holistic experience here at UCSD. And then to get connected with the Students with Dependents coordinator, you would fill out a Students with Dependents assistance form. And I just provided the website where you can do that. It is on the left tab. It's like the second tab. This is just kind of a preview of what the assistance form looks like. So it just has some demographic information, also just some financial information if you need finances, maybe what your income is, things like that, just to better assess your situation as a whole, and then be able to kind of provide any resources beforehand. So normally when this gets filled out, I will send a student just kind of an auto response letter, and then but it has an extensive amount of resources. I know each student kind of works differently. So some students are totally satisfied with just the list of resources. Some students want to meet. So I also include my Zoom link, but students can also meet with me in person. I just noticed that with Students with Dependents, it's often, I guess, more feasible to be able to meet over Zoom. And then what happens in individualized support, so kind of case management. So that's either, like I said, Zoom meetings or in-person meetings. I can connect with basic needs resources. Like I said, I work closely with basic needs, but essentially I can connect with those as well, since I have a bit of an extensive list with that, and then also more specified to basic needs in accordance to dependents. There's also, I can also provide information for childcare resources if you need financial support. There's county resources that I've worked with before, or finding UCSD funding potentially to assist with childcare. And then also advocating to get appropriate care. So that's if it's connecting with other campus partners and kind of vouching on your behalf, the work that we've been doing together, advocating, letting them know that you do have dependents or just kind of your situation. Obviously with that, I would be connecting with you first and letting you know what I would be sharing with campus partners, or we would be like in email threads as well and together, just so that you don't have to do a lot of the heavy lifting yourself. So different Students with Dependents connection resources. There's the e-newsletter. So that's a bi-weekly newsletter with upcoming events, resources, and opportunities. The link to subscribe is on the Students with Dependents website. And then the Students with Dependents website has up-to-date resources. Like I mentioned earlier, basic needs resources, also has the Students with Dependents calendar, childcare resources, lactation resources, and then the social media. So that is day-to-day updates about Students with Dependents events and efforts, and then also other campus information. So like I said,
Hey, Bianca,
yeah.
I'm going to turn your camera off. You're starting to sound a little crackly.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
It's still a little broken up. I'll go ahead and turn my camera off as well, but we can still understand what you're saying.
Okay. So there's day-to-day updates about events, information. Like I said, I also just kind of share different partners' resources as well. So if housing has different resources or opportunities that they are sharing, then I will just kind of repost that just to kind of make sure everybody is in the know, and all of our students have up-to-date resources. And then just to kind of go over some case management resources, since like I said, case management is my home base. There is the Triton Concern Form. So that is if you don't have like specific students with dependence needs, but essentially are needing any support with like living, learning, or your environment, anything like that, you can submit it on behalf of yourself. You can also submit it on behalf of another student that you feel might be struggling. In that case, they would be connected with their deans or with the case manager of the college that the student resides in. There's also Together All, which is a bit of a newer resource. Together All is free. It's a safe online mental health community where students can connect with their peers and just share about any indiscretions that they might be going through. They can get advice, they can get tips. It's available 24/7 and it is fully confidential. There is a trained professional on there monitoring just to make sure that students aren't like overly sharing triggering information that might affect other students or creating a dangerous environment for other students to be in. And then a new service that we have coming soon is Triton Pals. So it kind of sounds similar to Together All, but more so like in person. So it's peer-to-peer support. It provides UCSD students kind of just like a helping hand. It is composed of a student staff. So currently working on hiring student staff, and they will be trained to kind of be just kind of supportive and make sure that they are able to assist you in a way that is with care, essentially. But yeah, other than that, some important tips before attending. So I know not everybody fills out the financial aid form, just depending on your financial circumstances. But in order to register for priority enrollment, you do have to fill out a financial aid form. So I would suggest that just to get set up before you start at UCSD to kind of create your class schedule and have it work best for you. This one is also specific to student parents. So that's the only caveat in terms of like students' dependents. So if you are a student parent, definitely go ahead and fill out that and then connect with financial aid to make sure that you are approved. There might be some extra steps, but that would be more of a connection for financial aid. And then before attending UCSD, I would plan out childcare options. So on the website, there is childcare solutions. With that, you can look through off-campus resources. You can look at on-campus resources. We do have the Early Childhood Education Center. If you do plan on utilizing that, it is for children 3 months to 5 years. I would say do that as soon as possible. If you plan on utilizing that, I would say try and sign up tomorrow. The waitlist is pretty extensive. I think currently it might be about a year out. So that's just something to keep in mind. And then familiarize yourself with available lactation locations as needed. So there's a map of available locations on the Students with Dependence website. It is being updated just as time goes and more locations are added. I would also familiarize myself with like changing stations on campus. I know we are also adding new changing stations this summer and throughout the fall as well. And then also signing up for Students with Dependence e-newsletter, follow the Students with Dependence Instagram page before attending, just to be up to date with any important information or opportunities or upcoming events at UCSD. And then that is it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bianca. That was great. I was able to put that link in the chat for you all as well. So in case we have any students with dependents here with us today, go ahead and fill out that form as mentioned so you can get in touch with the SwD office. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass to Ebony with our CalFresh office, our CalFresh program within the Basic Needs Center here at Basic Needs Hub here at UCSD. So thank you so much, Ebony, for joining us.
Hi again, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Tessa. So my name is Ebony and I am the CalFresh Program Coordinator. And here's a presentation on CalFresh. What is CalFresh? CalFresh is a supplemental nutrition assistance program here in California, and it assists low-income individuals and families in purchasing food and nutrition support to meet or improve dietary needs. One of the main purposes of CalFresh is to also help raise nutrition levels amongst the college community and low-income households here in California. CalFresh is a monthly benefit that is used to purchase food at grocery stores, select markets, and on college campuses, as well as farmers markets. The monthly benefit is loaded onto an electronic benefit card, also known as an EBT card, between the 1st of each month and the 10th of each month. CalFresh is also based on eligibility, and for students, here are the mandatory eligibilities as of June 11th, 2023. Students must be enrolled at least half-time at an institution for higher education, work at least 20 hours per week. Students that work on campus do not have to work the maximum of the 20 hours. And if you are approved for state or federal work study and have not refused any job assignments, you're also eligible. Approved and awarded for TANF funded Cal Grant A or Cal Grant B, a full-time student who is a single parent to a child under 12, a part-time student with a child from age 6 to 11 without adequate childcare. If a student does not plan to register for the next school term, they can also be eligible for CalFresh. And one of the newest eligibilities here that we have is the local programs that increase employability, which is also known as LPIE here on campus. Students are able to utilize their majors in order to qualify for CalFresh. A student who is disabled or physically or mentally unable to work is also eligible for CalFresh. The primary eligibility, if you weren't a student, which students also have to meet, and the biggest one for our student population is residency. I highly recommend any students that are transferring to apply the month that you move to San Diego. You must be a resident of the County of San Diego prior to submitting your application, and you have to show proof as well. Some proof that you can show, it could be your ID or your lease. An ID must be on file as well and must be verified. It does not have to be current. Citizenship, US citizens and many non-citizens are eligible for CalFresh. Social Security, individuals including children applying for CalFresh must provide a Social Security number or proof that they have applied, which you're able to obtain that at any local Social Security office. And income. Most households must have a total gross monthly income of less or equal to the 200% of the federal poverty line in order to be potentially eligible for CalFresh. And as a student, if you're in between the age of 18 to 19, enrolled at least half-time, physically and mentally able to attend school and work, those are the primary eligibilities here for students. And you must meet at a minimum one student exemption. On campus, you're able to utilize your EBT card at the following markets here: the market at 7th College, Rogers Market, Earls Market at the Canyon Vista Marketplace, 6 Marketplace, Sunshine Market, and Target at the Price Center. And if you would like to use CalFresh off campus, you can purchase food items at Ralph's, Sprouts, Trader Joe's, Amazon, Target, as well as the farmers market. For citizenship, which is one of the primary eligibilities for CalFresh, these are eligible citizenship status, United States, a US citizen, naturalized, a lawful permanent resident, or a non-citizen who's admitted for humanitarian reasons. And then ineligible students include undocumented students, students that are here on a student visa, as well as tourist visas. And these are also the acceptable immigration statuses outside of the citizenship as well: refugee and asylum, parolee, a U or a T visa, and a Cuban or Haitian entry. And this is more further in depth as far as the immigration status and CalFresh and ineligible immigration status. If a student is here on the deferred action for childhood arrivals, unfortunately, it does make the student ineligible, or anyone that's applying under temporary protective status, unless there are other qualifying factors that are that have supporting documents. Residency, again, in order to apply for CalFresh, an applicant must be a resident of the County of San Diego. Applicants without a permanent address or a fixed mailing address can get CalFresh if they are a County of San Diego residents. If a student is homeless or facing housing insecurity, they can always utilize one of the county family resource centers as their primary mailing address. For income, typically students are in a household of one, and the maximum gross income is $2,266. And this includes earned and unearned income. And the maximum for the household of one can range anywhere from the benefit amount of $20 to $281. For income, this is the breakdown. For earned income, it would be considered wages from an employer, stipends from a research or a teaching assistant, as well as any income from CalWorks or IHSS. Unincome is also factored in if you're receiving unemployment benefits, Social Security, SSI, financial aid, child support, or monetary gifts, they must be reported. For financial aid, however, since tuition is covered, that's one of the primary ways that students are eligible for CalFresh. And if the student income does not exceed the tuition, then it's exempt. For self-employment, if a student is self-employed and let's say own a shop on Etsy, a personal business, is participating in rideshare, food delivery, or any independent service provider, they can choose to submit a 40%. They can select 40% for the standard deduction or submit receipts to have the county calculate exactly how much their business expenses are if they are self-employed. Excluded income is income that is not received regularly. If a student is going through a situation and let's say a parent, friend, or guardian assists them for that one time, that is not included, as well as any one-time lump sum. In-kind gifts, which is payments or benefits that are not cash, which includes free housing or childcare. And income from work study, and it must be reported on the CalFresh application for it to be excluded. And aside from the CalFresh benefits here on campus, we also have a pantry, and I wanted to list the hours here. For the pantries, it is by a point system. Students are awarded 15 points weekly and can visit the pantry during these hours. And one is for the pantry that's located over at the hub, as well as for graduate housing. And that is my contact information if you have any questions regarding CalFresh, as well as the CalFresh email for any students that would like to reach out.
Thank you so much, Ebony. I see some questions coming in the chat for you. Let's see, these seem a little bit more specific. So I'll go ahead and save these for you to chat through. And I will go ahead and pass to UCSD Senior Disability Specialist, Jan. Thank you so much for joining us, Jan.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jan. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I'm one of the disability specialists at the OSD. On behalf of the Office for Students with Disabilities, we'd like to welcome you here to UC San Diego. We're glad you're here. I would also like to thank the Transfer Triton Hub for inviting the OSD to speak here today with Transfer Talks. It's important to know who we are and know the resources around campus. So programs like today really helps with transition to the campus. I'll be giving a brief presentation today that will talk a little bit about our office, give you some highlights on how to get connected. If you have any questions following today's presentation, you can certainly ask in the live questions. You are welcome to email, and you will have that email shortly. And then also you can email me directly at rnoz@ucsd.edu. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Give me 1 second. All right, let's see here. All right, there we are. So the Office for Students with Disabilities, it's important to note that we are open all year round. We're closed, of course, on holidays and times that the campus is closed itself. We're a office that's open Monday through Friday. We are open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and we are located on the 3rd floor in Pepper Canyon. We're conducting the intake appointments or any meetings that needs to happen through virtual Zoom or phone at this time. It's also important to note that you get started with us early. So as you learn a little bit more about us today, you're going to know we're open this summer, and the earlier you get started, the better it's going to be in the process. So another thing to note is you can reach us via telephone. You can see the telephone number here. You can also reach us via email, and you can come to the office in person to the front desk if you have anything that you need to turn into us. One of the best tips that I can leave today to get started is, as you learn more about our appointments, you'll want to complete your intake and your consent form. An intake form and consent form is always available on our website. The intake form is generally a form that students will complete one time. The consent form is a form we have you complete at the initial appointment, and we have you update it yearly. If you're a student that has attended in your primary school years, community college, or any university, and you have a history of accommodations, you're certainly welcome to come to the office with documentation that might be in the form of the things that you see listed here on my slide. You will have the 504, an IEP plan, or a accommodation letter. Here on our campus, we refer to the accommodation letter as an authorization for accommodations. I don't know where my slide just went. There we go. The other is that you may have other forms of accommodation that's been provided through particular testing boards such as ACT, ACT, LSAT, the GRE, MCAT, or you may have a documentation that's come in from a treating provider that might have been a psychologist, a psychiatrist, that completed a neuropsych or a psychoeducational assessment. So if you have copies of those are helpful for us as well. You would want to include those in an email to our front desk at the OSD at ucsd.edu, or you may fax it to us. You'll be getting that fax here today shortly. So if you have any questions about this as we go along, certainly don't hesitate to let me know. Next, let me tell you a little bit about the intake appointment and what to expect. So when students schedule an intake appointment, this is the time for us to get to know you and you get to know us and our process. It may feel like we're being a little nosy when we ask you questions, but that's not our intention. Our intention is to really get to know you and what particular accommodations that may make sense for you based on your current and specific functional limitations. Things that you're going to want to think about is about the living and learning environments that have been a challenge in the past. What did that look like? So these are things that we'll be talking with you about in the intake meeting. What new challenges have you experienced in the virtual learning environment? We do have classes that are remote from time to time during the academic year and in the summer sessions. How is your disability impacting you today? You're going to want to be prepared and be very specific so that we can understand how you're impacted currently. It's important to note that a current functional limitation is the inability or the difficulty in doing something today because of how your disability is impacting you. Sometimes folks may ask, tell me a little bit more about what a disability might be. So things to think about: disability that can be permanent, it can be a medical condition, it can be something that's temporary. So if a student has been diagnosed with a mental health disability such as depression or anxiety, or a physical disability that might be permanent or even temporary. We have students that unfortunately get injured on campus. They may break a hand or they may break a foot or an ankle. We have temporary disabilities that can be in place. If someone is experiencing a permanent condition, again, we base our determination on accommodations on current and specific functional limitations. We'll talk to you a little bit more about that as you are in the intake appointment. What do you mean you need more information? So during your appointment, we're going to talk to you a little bit about the history of accommodations And then during our questions, we may need additional documentation. That additional documentation can be provided on the verification of a disability form that's located on our website. This is going to help us if there's any other accommodations that are needed. It'll help clarify things such as severity, frequency, and duration of what's going on. It also will give us an idea if the condition is permanent, if it's an influx, or you have periods of flares or in remission. So from time to time, we may ask for periodic updates on your documentation, and this will be determined between you and your disability specialist that you work with during that particular time. At times, we have students say, what is a provisional accommodation? That's a really good question. So some things to think about. If you are experiencing something that is temporary, like you heard me say earlier, like you've broke a hand or a foot, we can put things in place that are provisional during the time that the student is experiencing that particular limitation. Sometimes there's a new condition that a student may be experiencing, and there may be some accommodations that make sense for a quarter. And then as the student is connected to a treating provider, we will also learn a little bit more, so we may update those accommodations accordingly. So again, some accommodations may be given for 1 quarter and some may be beyond that. You would again discuss that with your accommodation, the accommodations themselves with your disability specialist. If your condition is exacerbated by stress, you want to think about how to manage or reduce your stress so you can minimize flares that you may be experiencing. You may be able to utilize some campus resources such as REMAC, the gym on campus. There's another office called the Zone. There's CAPS, which is Counseling and Psychological Services. All these offices offer drop-in workshops, mindfulness, and they do one-on-one counseling for the folks that are the professionals that work in those particular offices. Moving on to the next slide, what types of accommodations do students receive here at UCSD or while in college? This is just a small brief list of accommodations that students may have while they're working with our office. You can see that we have note-taking, extended test time, a separate testing location within the academic department, or possibly within Triton Testing Center, which is an office outside of OSD. Housing and dining, and then we have Triton Transit Mobility, which are the little golf carts that run around on campus. And so those are just, again, a brief list of accommodations that we may have on campus for you. And it's important to note that accommodations are requested by students quarterly and in the summer sessions. And we determine accommodations on a quarter basis, and students actually must request the accommodations for each quarter that they're taking classes, and that includes the summer sessions as well. So for example, we're in a summer session right now, summer session 1 and 2, students are requesting accommodations as soon as they enroll in classes, and the same for the fall, winter, and spring quarters. And when we are offering accommodations that are different than what's been authorized, we may ask for additional documentation. The information here for Triton Transit, you can look at the link here and you can find out a little bit more about their particular services on campus for moving students from point A to point B. How do I have steps toward a successful transition here on campus? Again, a really great question. It's going to be important for you to be honest with yourself and don't compare yourself with others. You may have in your own journey to follow. So you may hear as you get connected with our office that a student has a particular accommodation. It's important to note that accommodations are determined for the student based on the functional limitations. Certainly come and discuss with us, but accommodations may not look exactly the same for each and every student. Develop a continuity of care plan if you're not in the San Diego area. So if you have treating providers or specialists within your home or the area that you're currently living in, you can work with your providers to have them do a referral to the local area. And that way you can get the care that you need to have connected here in the San Diego area. You want to ask for assistance early. You heard me say that early on. Communication is really key. As you're getting connected with our office, you'll want to make sure that you communicate with your disability specialist. We often have students that transition in the fall and they may not recall who they worked with. And that's actually okay. Know that we know that is possibly a concern of a student going, I'm not sure who I worked with. I'm not sure who I talked to. You'll always be able to reach out to us via email to the OSD front desk email, osd@ucsd.edu, or you can call the front desk, let them know that you need to connect with your disability specialist, and they'll also reach out to us and we will email you. You'll want to schedule your accommodations each quarter, because remember, they're provided quarterly, and you can always request them once you're enrolled in classes. So you'll have classes you're signed up for the subsequent quarter. For example, students right now that are continuing are already enrolled in their fall classes. So late May, early June, they were able to already request accommodations for the fall quarter. So you can always do that in advance so you have what you need right up front. Again, it's important to not wait until the last minute, because as you get started and you start classes, you want to have your accommodations as soon as you come in. So I encourage you, like everyone in my office, to schedule your appointment early. Get in for the intake appointment, work with us through the interactive process. And the interactive process really is that intake meeting. It's the communication that happens via email. You'll always want to communicate with us on your UCSD email. So that's important. And if you have questions, you certainly can call the front desk and ask those questions. We are also available to meet with students on a regular basis if you want to meet with us weekly or bi-monthly for disability management appointments, or how do I use my accommodations here on your campus? What does that look like? So we'll be able to explain that to you. Again, can't emphasize that communication is key. We're here and we want to help you, but we're not going to know if you need that assistance until you reach out to us. So please make sure that you do that. You'll want to register for your accommodations as soon as you enroll in your fall classes. And so you can do that as soon as possible. And you can do that again through the OSD front desk email or the phone, and you can reach out directly to the disability specialist that you're working with. So that's another important thing to do. So that, I would say, is a snapshot of what's going on at the OSD. And we will give you certainly more when you come to the intake, because things will be tailored individually to each and every student. So again, happy to be able to talk today to bring the information here. Our contact information is here as so. You see the phone to the OSD front desk. Our fax machine is 24/7. So you or your provider may provide the documentation that's there. That's the front desk email and our website. Our website has lots of really great information on it. So please do make sure that you check that out. And that would really conclude my presentation today. So happy to share. Looks like I might have a couple of questions here. So let's see if I can answer a couple of these. How am I doing with time, Tessa?
You're doing wonderful. I was looking through and I didn't see any main themes. Maybe one that would apply to multiple folks is if they schedule an appointment within your office and they want to change modalities later on, is that an option for folks?
Changing modalities. I'm not sure exactly what I mean by that, but if that means accommodations.
Modality in terms of meeting.
Oh, in terms of meetings.
Yeah, if they will, like they say they have a phone call and maybe they would rather meet over Zoom, that feels more personal. Do they have the option to change those once in?
They absolutely do. That's a really good question. You can meet via phone or Zoom. Those are how we're meeting for students right now and or with them. So yes, you have an option. You can request, and if you decide to change that at some point, you're able to do that.
And would they do that via email, or what would be the best way?
Students are doing it both via email and via phone, and the emails are answered Monday through Friday, and same with the phone call. So you can do either or. And if you look on our website, it has a list of information to please always give us your name, your PID. If you're requesting an appointment, let us know at least 3 times that you're available. And we do appointments between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. each day.
Wonderful. And then another question, if a student requests an accommodation, is that going to show up on their school records in any way that might be available to future employers? What does that look like?
That's a really good question. We often get that question. So students when they work with the Office for Students with Disabilities, you have accommodation letters that are between you, your instructor, and what is referred to as the OSD liaison, a department advisor. They receive the accommodation letter in the form of an email, and the accommodations are for your classes, for housing, for dining, for whatever that is on campus. So there is no communication that goes on your transcript or your degree when you confer it, or to employers. The only way someone would know that you work with our office is if you personally share that with them. And so there's no other information that goes out to any of the employers or off-campus folks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm trying to see if there's any main themes. Those were the big ones I see that don't seem more specific to the student. But I'll see that we have open Q&A. So if you have questions for any of our presenters, go ahead and keep dropping those in the chat there. And as I see themes, I'll ask again. I did see a theme after Ebony, your presentation. We had quite a few questions about work study and CalFresh and the relationship between those two. Do you mind just talking a little bit about that one more time?
Yes, of course. So for work study and CalFresh, previously before the COVID-19 pandemic ended, if you were eligible for work study, it was an eligibility as well as the expected family contribution of $0. However, as of June 11th, that has been terminated. So you have to be approved and working your work study as of present time. Eligibility is no longer a qualification for the eligibility.
Okay. Okay, perfect. That was another one I saw quite a few times. Other ones seem a little bit more specific, and it looks like our presenters have been doing a great job keeping up with those. So we don't have too many. Feel free to keep bringing those in the chat. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again to get our attendance link out to everybody, make sure that we can keep moving on our raffle. But if you do still have questions that are in your mind, please feel free to use that Q&A feature, and we will get into that. We will continue to get into our raffle. So I'll go ahead and share that QR code. I just dropped the link in the chat. So go ahead and use that to sign up. For today's session. Here's that QR code as well. I do see some more questions coming in as well. So those are great. Ooh, here's another one that's going to apply to some other folks. Ebony, do you mind sharing how meal plan might interact with CalFresh eligibility, if it does in any way?
Yes. So for meal plans, you have to receive under 11 meals a week in order to qualify for CalFresh. If you exceed that amount, you unfortunately are not qualified, since you are receiving, you are able to access food on campus.
And I do see some more of our attendees coming in. So thank you so much for getting those attendance logs in. I'll go ahead and open our poll here as well. So as I've mentioned in past years, this is in our past presentations, this is our first year of the STEP program. So we love getting to hear from you and seeing how you felt about each of our presentations. I know I learned so much from each of these, so I'm hoping y'all are feeling that this is really supporting you as well. I just opened up that poll. If y'all don't mind filling those out, that would be wonderful. And that gives some other folks time for attendance. I'll go ahead and share screen in just a couple minutes and do that spinning wheel. Wonderful. I see those all coming in. Thank you so much, everyone. Oh, and this is a great question I see here in the chat as well for Jan. Do you mind mentioning how might accommodations be able to support, if at all, students' research opportunities or professional organizations? Is there any overlap there?
Let me see if I can do a good job in answering that question. So earlier you heard me state that accommodations are for classes, for housing, for dining. If a student is participating in research or any particular work on campus, accommodations can be provided if needed, again, on functional limitations. However, that's done through another office on campus called Disability Counseling and Consulting, DCC. So if a student is doing research, a student is working in any capacity, a researcher, or you're working in any capacity, even at the bookstore, and you need a particular accommodation, I'll put that in the chat. Disability Counseling and Consulting would be the office that you would work with. You can also start with our office and we can share documentation so you don't have to duplicate your efforts with that. And there's a consent form to be able to do that. So hopefully that answered the question here. And I'll put that office in the chat.
Thank you. Oh, and then someone bounced off of that and they asked a little bit further, is that available in terms of housing and dining as well? So I know you talked mostly about the academic. Do you mind and that was more that professional piece. Does that expand further, or is there a separate office that would support in the expansion of that?
Thank you for asking that question. So a little bit more about housing and dining. So if a student has a particular physical disability or limitation that might affect them in a housing environment, say, for instance, someone is not able to walk up and down stairs frequently, they may need like a first floor, no bunk bed or loft. That would be a housing accommodation that would come directly through our office. If a student needs a dining hall accommodation, that also would come through our office. And that might be if a student is experiencing food allergies or they need a modification in food, if they can't eat a particular item such as fish or gluten or something like that, they would work with the registered dietitian on campus to get some meal modifications. And then also how to select good choices through the markets that are on campus. So both dining and the particular campus housing would come through our office, the OSD. So hopefully that gave you kind of a highlight.
Yes, that's great. Thank you so much. All right, it looks like we haven't had any more attendees come in the code for a minute there. So I'll go ahead and I will share our spinning wheel and see who our winners for today are going to be. All right, winner number 1. Thank you for joining us today. Make sure you're keeping an eye out on your email. I will send out an email for your address by the end of day today. Ooh, great. And we have our winner number 2. Go ahead and spin for one more. All right. We have our 3 for today. Thank you everybody so much for coming. I think I'm looking at our chat. It looks like we have a couple questions that are still in the process of being answered. So I'll go ahead and just leave the Zoom open so that folks can get those typed. But otherwise, our session is done for the day. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are hoping to see you at some of our upcoming Transfers Connect. Thanks so much. Bye, everyone. Great, and it looks like we had our last question. Go ahead and close it out.